build is starting to get fun again. What we're going to do is grab our drivetrain and then our cage, and we need to slip this on so that these 4 holes here line up with these 4 holes here. So we're going to set this down. We're going to lift our shocks up so everything falls down into place. We're going to do that on the front and the rear. Shocks up out of the way. And boy, look at that. That just falls right down on there where it needs to go. We're going to go ahead and put 4 screws in. You may have to jiggle the chassis around a little bit to get it exactly where you want. Do also keep note, you might have to jiggle it around a little bit as well to get the first screw started in so that everything matches up. Once the first one is in, the rest of them should fall right into place once you have it located where it belongs. So we'll put that one in. Put one more in here. And then we're going to turn it around, put a couple in that side, and then finish putting all the rest of them in. There are 8 total, so make sure you get all 8 of them in. We're going to spare you from having to sit here and watch me put screws in. So as soon as that's done, we'll be right back. Alright, we've got it all hooked up now. We have all 8 screws in, 4 on each side. You need to hold the axles up here, otherwise they're going to fall down and just like that, and the shocks are going to pop out of their holes. So now let's get moving on to step number 40, and we're going to work on the front. And we're going to attach the shocks to the front shock towers. We're going to need to take a look at the shock mounting positions here, and the directions are telling us to mount it to the most forward position. What we're going to do is take one of our screws and put it through, just like so, and then we're going to take one of these -2 parts, which is a little spacer, and we're going to put it over the screw. And it's going to space it out away from the chassis. And at that point, let's go ahead and put that screw into the forwardmost position on the shock tower and screw it in. Going to repeat the process on the second side. You don't want to screw it in too much. You are screwing into rubber, and you can over compress that rubber, so just put it in till it touches. That should be sufficient. We'll repeat that process on this side. And again to the forwardmost mounting position. Just like so. And again, you only want to screw it in till it touches, because you don't want to over compress that rubber. So that's what we have so far. Let's go ahead and do the same on the rear. And with the rear, we're going to mount it to the rearmost position on the shock mount. And it's the same procedure on this one. You do want to make sure that you're using the longer screws on the rear, because if you take a look, there's 2 pieces of plastic that this has to go through to capture and work properly. Hard to grab everything here. thread this in. And you do want to make sure that you go through this first piece of plastic and then in through the other hole that is in the battery holder. Make sure that you do capture that, and it cinches it together tightly. Just helps hold that battery and battery compartment. So you can see that one's done. This is the second piece that you want to capture back there. Let's do this one more time on the rear. Put on the screw, the spacer, place it on the rearmost mount, and tighten it up. Again, we want to make sure and reach down. You may have to hold that second piece of plastic so that the screw catches it. There we go. We now have everything done except for the wheels and the body panels. How's that? Woohoo! Getting close. I'm happy now. Okay, let's get out everything that we need for step number 42, and that does include some CA glue. So make sure you get some good tire glue, and we're going to start building some tires. Step number 42, building tires. Yay! Beadlocks are fun, and glued tires like these are even more fun. What we're going to do is take some denatured alcohol and put it on a rag, and it's important that we clean the surfaces that are going to be glued. Rubber has release mold compounds and greases and oils on them, and that will most definitely keep the CA glue from holding tight. So we're just going to clean off the entire bead area where it gets glued, on the inside and the outside. And we're going to do the same to the wheel. We're going to clean off the grooves to get any release agents off of there. Just like so. Alright. There's as many different ways to glue tires as there are people gluing them. I'm just going to show you the way I do it. Whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm not sure. We're going to go ahead and stuff the foam inside of the tire. This is a really good time before you build these. If you're going to buy some beadlock wheels, it's a good time to do that. If you're going to cut foams, if you're going to weight your tires, go over to rccrawler.com if you don't know what I'm talking about, and there's more than enough information over there to confuse anybody. So take a look, and it may be something you want to do. I don't see a difference in the front or the back of the tire, so we're going to take our wheel and put it through, and we're going to bring the lip down so that it's over the wheel. You can see on this one where it's not. You're just going to want to work it on so that everything fits on nice. And what you're going to look at here is around this portion here, just to make sure it's all seated properly. You can play around with it, make sure the foams aren't wrinkled up, make sure it's generally in good shape and it's round. Now comes the fun part, gluing. We're going to start on the back because it's not as visible, and we seem to get better and better as we glue more and more. I'm going to take this off the bead, and we want to use a fairly fast drying, fairly thin CA glue, and you can actually get regular what they call tire glue. And I'm just going to lay a bead of it on the inside of that rim. You're going to have to do it quickly. You don't want too much, but you don't want to have too little. We're just going to go all the way around once. Make sure we have it in there, and very quickly we're going to pull this bead back up and seat it in the wheel. You have to do it quickly. Okay, at that point, work it in, and you're going to look again and make sure that there's no big gaps. You might get a little glue coming out, which is okay. And that's how it should look when it's done. You're going to set that aside and let it dry. And then after that dries, we're going to go ahead and do the front. Repeat that process on all 4 tires, and when you're done, we'll meet you back here for the next step. All right, you got your 4 tires done now. So let me ask you, how many of you glued your fingers to the wheel or a tire? And if you did, how many times did you do that? But now it's actually not that bad. It gets easier as you go along. You can see I got a little bit of glue up in there, but that's okay. Let's get all our bag G, open it up. There's some small parts in there we're going to have to deal with. First thing we're going to do is get our little set screw out and a tad bit of Loctite on it. We're going to insert that into our wheel hex. Just put it in a little ways. Now, this is going to be the same for all 4. If you spin your axle around, you're going to see that there is a hole right here. And what we're going to do is take the little axle pin, stick it through that hole. Going to align this so it's not falling out. There we go. From there, we're going to take the little slot on the back here and put it over that axle pin. Make sure it slides on there and it captures that axle pin. I'm going to hold it on there and tighten up the set screw. Pretty straightforward. You do want to make sure and double check that that hex is actually capturing. There's a small gap in there, which is okay. From there, let's go ahead and slip our wheel on. There's a hex on the back of the wheel. I'm going to put that on. We're going to follow up with a little washer that was included in your last bag, and that bevel is going to go, guess I'll have to look here. Is that bevel going to go in or out? Okay, looks to me like the bevel goes out, so the taller portion is going to stick out. And then from there, we will put on our lug nut. Go ahead and repeat that process on all 4 corners. Tighten it up until it touches, and then give it a little extra push. And that's what it looks like when it's done. Let's go ahead and put the other 4 on, and we'll see you when you get done.